Hello, my name is Mary. I have Spanish roots, and our traditions are very much honored in my family. I really have a huge Spanish family. My mom, my dad, three brothers, then younger than me, grandmother, and even great-grandmother. We all live in a big house. We're always very noisy and fun. We're friendly and spend a lot of time together. My family moved to this city long ago, and also I met Mark in kindergarten. He's a great guy, very funny and exciting. I remember how we played together in kindergarten, how he protected me from bad guys, helped me with everything in school. He has always been with me as long as I remember. Mark comes to visit very often. My abuela loves him very much, calls him a grandson and kisses him, and hugs him tightly. Dad says he's a great guy and I'm lucky to have such a friend. My brothers often play with him and he helps them with homework. In short, he has long been part of our family. But my bisabuela does not like him. When he is with us, she ignores him. I tried to find out what was wrong, but she always strokes my head and says that for almost 100 years she saw all kinds of people and just knows that he is the wrong person. I get distraught after such conversations, but I still think that she might be wrong. It was the most ordinary day. Mark and I walked home from school. I needed his help in preparing a history project. We went up to the room, I chatted about history and teachers, and suddenly he grabbed me by my shoulders, pulled me to him, and kissed. I didn't understand what was going on. I pushed him away. And then he knelt down and began to talk about how he loves me, how he cannot live without my smile, and he wants to be my boyfriend, and how he dreams of a kiss. This was very unexpected, and I would say not very pleasant. I just silently looked at him and could not understand what all this was for. He stood, time passed, and then I just gave him in one breath that I could not be with him. He was surprised, got up and said that he would give me time until morning. I could not sleep all night, and by morning I'll calm down. I decided that in general it is awful to lose a friend, but I can't be with him either. I don't like him that way. I calmly informed him about this when we met. He shut down and didn't talk to me all day. After school, Mark didn't show up, and I finally realized that I had lost my childhood friend. It was a holiday, El Día de la Madre. My mom is a wonderful mom for all of us, and we really love to congratulate her on this day. The whole big family gathered at one table. I received a text from Mark, "Go out into the yard." I didn't want to argue with him, but I went out anyway. He was standing near the house. On the one hand, he had a gas can, in the other, a lighter. He silently opened the canister and poured liquid up to his feet. It smelled of gasoline. He set fire to his stain. It flared up. Then he silently began to pour liquid on the path while walking towards the house. I got scared and I asked what he was doing. He answered only one thing. If I didn't agree to become his girlfriend, he would burn our house down. At that moment, seeing his angry eyes, I realized that he was not joking at all. I just said yes. He was delighted, hugged me, and quickly carried the canister to the car. And from there, he brought flowers. "Today is Mother's Day. I want to congratulate your mother. She gave birth to such an intelligent daughter," he said. I wanted to sink into the ground, hit him, but not let him near my family. Instead, I walked with him by the hand to our house. From that day on, my personal nightmare began. He kissed me, hugged me, and told everyone that I was his girlfriend. He was always there, and I was terrified of him. I was simply shackled by fear when he came to our house, but I could not tell anyone. On that day, my parents went out while my brothers and I stayed at home. Grandma was cooking a cake, and great-grandmother knitted a scarf and sang a song. We love it very much when she sings in Spanish, which means that afterward she will tell the legends and tales of our people. And even on this beautiful evening, Mark came. I was not happy, but he held a lighter in his hand and played with it. He opened and closed it. I let him in silence. He sat down in the living room. My beloved bisabuela didn't even turn in his direction. She continued to sing. And then she began to tell the legend about our family. A long time ago, A woman who would now be called a witch saw a neighbor beating my grandmother. He was drunk and yelled at her and hit her in the face. She was very young and he courted her. My grandma saw him like this for the first time and was confused. The witch shouted at him. He lunged at her with his fist, and suddenly her eyes began to glow like a lighthouse in the ocean. He was dumbfounded, and then she said in the thunderous voice, "In this family there are the most extraordinary women. They are kind and the best mothers, but they cannot protect themselves. I curse all men who will offend women of their kind. Anyone who tries to offend this woman will die from the same evil." The man laughed in her face, and my grandmother quickly ran home. 3 days later, she found out that this man was severely beaten and died. This was the first but not the last such case. Many more people have died hurting women of our kind. There was silence in the room, and suddenly something heavy fell to the floor. We all turned towards the sound. Mark quickly raised his lighter and ran out of the house. Since then, he avoided me. Do you think Bisabuela came up with this story, or does the witch curse really exist? Write your opinions in the comments and I will definitely read everything.
Hi, my name is Penelope. Despite my very feminine name, I was ungirly from childhood. I used to play soccer with some friends in the yard, while others I used to play munchkin. While the girls in beautiful dresses were making soups in the toy kitchens for their Barbies, I was in the rain, all dirty, wet to the skin, stood on the goal because there was a very intense match and leaving was considered a betrayal. There was no time to watch after myself, and I had mainly a ponytail. At the same time, I somehow managed to study well and even had enough time to read books. And so, reading another volume of George Martin on a bench in Central Park, I noticed how closely some guy was looking at me. I periodically took my eyes off the book, as if looking back while looking at a stranger with curiosity. He was dressed all in black and for some reason wearing a light raincoat, although it was a little not for the weather. He wore black glasses, which he lowered and impudently looked at me. At first, I felt like there was behind me in an outdoors yoga class and he was staring at them, but I didn't want to give myself away, so I didn't look around. I tried to concentrate on reading, but my curiosity took over and I looked around once again. The stranger wasn't there. "Hello," said someone right underneath my ear. Suddenly, I jumped up and fell off the bench. It was him! Dang, how had he snuck up so quietly and sat next to me? Who does sneak up to a stranger? And I started telling him off. "I'm sorry, I was fascinated by your beauty and I didn't notice myself sitting near," he parried softly. No one had ever said that to me before. I got a blush right away. All my friends thought I was their buddy, and it wasn't a shame to spit and fart with armpits around me. He saw me dazed and decided to help. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. "No," I said. "My name is Matthew, but my friends call me Mad. I'm your ticket to the happy future." I didn't know what he was talking about, and all I said was, "What?" He smiled. "I have my own modeling agency, and believe me, I understand beauty, and you have very good potential. The right facial features, clear, expressive eyes. A little work on you, of course, to remove freckles, pluck your eyebrows, emphasize other things, and all will be perfect." I still kept staring at him, digesting his words. "In short," he said, seeing as he couldn't wait to hear back from me, "here's my card. If you're interested, you can come right in. We won't waste any time." And he left. All night long, all thoughts were about this event. I had never thought about this side of life, but the longer I did, the more my curiosity grew, and I made the decision at night to try. In the morning, I dug up my only dress in the far corner of the mezzanine that my late grandmother gave me. I ironed it quickly and put it on myself. I looked at myself in the mirror. Seemed pretty okay. I needed to put on makeup. I pulled my mother's brightest lipstick and an eye pencil out of her makeup bag, and done. I looked at myself again. Well, almost a model, and with a clear conscience and peace of mind, I went to the agency. Security didn't let me in at first, but when I explained where I met Matthew, they let me in without a word and explained where to go. Things were humming. Someone was running somewhere, someone was calling, someone was screaming, and the models were walking with proud and flashy faces. For some reason, I immediately felt myself so gray, like a mouse that sneaks through the pompous beauty ball. And that's when I ran into Matthew. When he saw me, his face reflected surprise, disgust, and joy at the same time. For a second, I thought his eye was starting to twitch. Apparently, something was wrong with my makeup. "Angela," he yelled. Some girl ran up. We've got new material. Do it right. They brought me to the table and it started. I was smeared, combed, my hair cut. When they turned me into the mirror, it seemed to me that there was a completely different girl sitting in front of me. So much I have changed. Matthew came up saying, "Well, I told you so." To the shoot. But that's where the problem started. I had no experience and I was doing something wrong because the photographer was getting more and more annoyed with each shot. After the shoot, he came up to Matthew and they got tense to discuss something. In the meantime, I decided to go for some advice from more experienced models. They rolled their eyes with each of my questions and started asking where I came from with such questions. Some would snort and say it could only come from natural talent and could not be learned. Snakes. I began to understand where I came and what an unrealistic and fierce competition it was. But it only made me angry, and I wanted to prove to them all even more that I was worth something in this matter. Matthew came up and said with a little sadness in his eyes, "You have beautiful looks from nature, but you have to work on your artistry, your look. If you want to do it, you'll figure it out." I realized that there was no way to wait for the help, and I was completely immersed in the subject. I read the forums, the magazines. I absorbed everything like a sponge and very quickly began to make my first successes. Matthew, I thought, smiled at me more than to anyone else and sometimes looked at me a little thoughtfully. As all of this was noticed and relationships with coworkers became even more intense, someone trying to be friends with me, someone hating me even more. But there was a downside to all this. My old friends began to envy me and my successes. Some stopped communicating at once. Others began to tease badly at first, but I quickly halted them. After all, the work in such a team made itself felt. That's how I gradually lost all my friends. Unbelievable. I didn't think they were so jealous. It got very tight with my studies too. After class, I would disappear to shoot and learn industry while in class, looking at the latest works of famous photographers. I could barely stay afloat. The scandals with my parents had become almost a normal occurrence. In addition, my career in the agency by this time also stalled because of the internal intrigues. I might not get into the main list of models who have to go to the sea for the shooting in a very cool magazine. That's when I just happened to hear my new friend Betsy on the phone. It was clear from the conversation that Matthew always has a lot of work to do and he really appreciates being helped. It is a great way to move up the career ladder, as those who stay late with Matthew after work and help him diligently receive his support. I have been thinking about it. On the one hand, it was cheating. On the other hand, my life was slowly turning into hell, and sometimes I thought about giving it all up. But it's better to do it once I've achieved something serious. I had to rush to a decision because Betsy wanted to take this opportunity too. I stood thinking in front of the office door, and then I brought my hand to knock as the door opened, and Mom came out. Her eyes were red. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I talked to Matthew. It's better for you. Come in. He wants to talk." Feeling the worst, I walked in. "I talked to your mother. The way you take this business seriously is encouraging. I contributed it to myself because I hoped you'd reach unprecedented heights. But the other side of life shouldn't suffer. So you'd better finish school, and then you're welcome." I knew it was useless to argue with Matthew if he'd already made up his mind. It was a pity. It was a waste of time and effort to leave everything halfway through because others had achieved a lot in that time, and I had to make up for it almost all over again. Most of all, I was mad at my mom. How could she get into my life like that and ruin everything? I didn't talk to her for more than a week. I refused to eat. But I had to go back to normal life, and I was awfully hungry. I slowly started to get along with my old friends, and then, thanks to a friend of mine who let me listen to the tape of our conversation, I understood why everyone stopped talking to me. I quickly adopted the style of communication of my colleagues and began to communicate very arrogantly and haughtily. So everyone stopped communicating with me. I didn't notice that. I had a tunnel vision and only saw my end goal. And now I realize that all of that was artificial and that real life is before me. I still thank my mother for what she did. Sometimes we don't know what's best for us. And I also realized that we should appreciate the beauty of the soul and real friends, not the external. Thank you all for your attention. Be real. Like it and subscribe.